This week there's a show going on in Las Vegas called the Consumer Electronics Show, and to demonstrate the strange world we live in, car manufacturers this week have launched prototypes in LA at the Consumer Electronics Show, not a car show. And one of the cars that's been launched at that show is a concept by Mercedes that they're calling the EQXX. And they're claiming that this car will be able to do 1,000 kilometers on a charge. So if they can make that happen, it certainly gets rid of range anxiety. They're saying 10 kilowatts per 100 kilometers. So it's in 6 miles it uses 1 kilowatt hour. Drag coefficient of 0.17. And this is the thing I find very strange about it, is that it's got an ultra thin roof where they incorporate the solar panels, but the car does 1,000 kilometers on a charge, and they're getting 25 kilometers more by putting the solar roof on it. So kind of makes you think, is the solar roof worth all the bother? But really, when down through the years when I've looked at Mercedes, and Mercedes have won 87 races in Formula One, they have 66 fastest laps, they have 5 constructor championships, and they have 7 drivers championships. And I used to look at Mercedes down through the years and say, where is the technology that they've developed from F1 in the road cars? And it's like they've saved up all the technology and put it all into this one car, because this thing seems to be really far ahead of anybody else. Now, that being said, it is concept, so how much of it we're actually going to see for real remains to be seen. At that same show, a new entry into the car manufacturing world is Sony. Yeah, so I'm old enough to remember Sony as being famous for what will seem strange to our younger viewers now is a Walkman. You go, what? Well, that was the time where you could put a cassette in and you had a set of earphones on a cable linked to a cassette that you carried around with you, and you could listen to music. That's what I remember Sony for. But Sony are now going to build cars. They launched their concept at the Consumer Electronics Show in LA also. They've got a version S, and then they've got a version S02, which is their SUV. So it looks like they're committing to producing cars also, and there's some images on those online at the moment. A big story this week, a very historic story, is that GM, General Motors, who really don't exist in Europe anymore after they've sold Opel and Vauxhall, but GM have been the #1 seller in America every year since 1931. They've sold more vehicles than anybody else in America every year since 1931, which is hard to believe. This year they've just been knocked off the #1 spot by Toyota. But it's not as big a story for Toyota as it would seem. It really seems to be down to the fact that the chip shortage has really affected GM much more. Toyota have been able to get chips and been able to manufacture cars. So if GM had been able to get access to all the chips that they needed for the cars, they wouldn't be toppled from the #1 spot. But 31 years, the thing that I find interesting about 31 years is that it always sticks in my mind. General Motors bought Opel in 1929, and I think they bought Opel in the beginning of October in 1929 from Adam Opel, and the stock market crash, the famous depression from the stock market crash, occurred at the end of October in 1929, so not renowned for getting the decisions right in terms of when to buy and sell companies. But yeah, Toyota would have sold 2.3 million vehicles in America last year, and General Motors sold 2.2. So not a big difference, and it was all down to the fact that the Toyota had chips and GM didn't. Another story in America then as well is that New York City have just purchased 184 Ford Mustang Mach-E's. So they're going to be used by in civil authority, and they're going to be used by police. Their police vehicles are also going on the road as electric Mustangs. And in conjunction with that story, back home here in Ireland, The Mayor of Cork has just taken delivery of his Mustang Mach-E all-wheel drive. Councillor Colin Kelleher took delivery of his new car there on the 1st or 2nd of January. So we're seeing the Mach-E show up in all sorts of places now. The interesting thing about the Mach-E, something I discovered in reading up about the Mach-E and reading up about the new Transit electric, which is coming our way later this year also, is that you always assume that if you produce something like the Mach-E, the Mustang Mach-E, it looks very sporty, obviously tying in with the famous Mustang name. You would assume that the running gear, the engine, the transmission that a Mach-E would get could have no relation whatsoever to the running gear, the transmission, the engine that you might put in a Transit. But when it comes to the world of electric motors and batteries, the electric motor and the battery that's in a Mustang Mach-E and the electric motor and the battery that's in a Ford Transit van are the same. So from a manufacturing point of view, from a design point of view, life has become very easy for the manufacturers in that regard, because you're just running the same motor on the same battery. So an interesting statistic there. So another interesting story, and okay, it's mainly for everybody in the independent workshop side of things to look at what's going on in terms of the relationship that the car manufacturers are building with their customers. Hyundai in the UK have launched a new contactless digital after-sales service. The customer can book in the car online. They can choose the maintenance and repair job they want done from 15,000 individual maintenance and repair jobs that are individually priced. The moment that they book the car in online, they get a QR number. They can then track the vehicle right the way through. They know exactly where it is in terms of the time scale of the job being done in the workshop, and then they can collect the vehicle without ever having to talk to or interact with anybody. They've done a trial on this in some Hyundai dealers in the UK, and they found that 62% of customers use the system on the initial trial. So they're now starting to roll it out right across their dealer network in the UK. So just interesting that we in the independent sector and the aftermarket have to be very conscious of what's going on and keeping an eye on what's happening with the manufacturers, and that's just some evolution there that we're going to probably see being rolled out by other manufacturers in the future also. Just a quick reminder, Auto Inform is coming back. We're going to keep reminding you of this because it's coming at us pretty fast here now. 2nd and 3rd of April, Auto Inform is back in the RDS. People like Scheffler's going to be there, ZF's going to be there, Delphi's going to be there, Denso's going to be there, Frank Massey's coming, David Massey's coming, James Dillon, Andy Salva. So there's a very strong lineup on this year's Auto Inform Live. So, put that in your diary. It's coming in. It's only the beginning of April, so effectively it's less than 3 months away now at this stage. So start planning ahead and thinking about that one, because you won't find it till it's here upon us. By the way, another date for anybody that's interested in motorsport is, because things are starting to come back and dates are starting to be firmed up on, is Galway Rally. Galway Rally starts on the 5th and 6th of February. So anybody that wants to get out and see a bit of rally in there, Galway International Rally, 5th and 6th of February, based out of Loughrea. Service area, I think, is in the IDA Centre in Loughrea. So a good event to kick the year off with. For those of you who still believe in the internal combustion engine, we've got some good news. Volkswagen's latest 4-cylinder diesel engine is now able to run on paraffinic fuel. Okay, and you're saying, what's paraffinic fuel? Well, yeah, it's a kind of a form of diesel. It seems to be it's a form of diesel that's made up of waste vegetable oil, used cooking oil, or they're calling it hydrated cooking oil, or waste oil, waste vegetable oil. So it's a combination of different components that are used in the mixture of the diesel. But they're claiming that they can achieve 70 to 95% CO2 reductions. So you're kind of saying, well, where are we going here? What is this? Is the future now not electric? No, what Volkswagen are saying is this is for people who run mixed fleets, predominantly companies that run mixed fleets, where perhaps for the next couple of years electric may not suit the type of driving and the type of journeys they do. So yeah, our 4-cylinder Volkswagen diesels are going to live on just a little bit longer. Just before we go, a quick word out there to maybe be a little bit more considerate of your motor factors when you're calling in. We're all really aware of the fact now that with COVID and with staff shortages in general, how difficult things are. But we're getting back word from the field that staff shortages in some distributors and motor factors are hitting 50 to 80%. Okay, so maybe if you could just have a little bit more patience when you're dealing with your factors, because to be fair, the workshop or the body shop can modulate the work to some degree. You can say, I'm not going to book that job in because Johnny didn't come in today. It's a little bit more difficult for the motor factors and for the distributors, so maybe just a little bit more patience when you're dealing with the guys at the counter over the next couple of weeks. Sealy have just come out with their new catalogue, just been released. They've got 1,500 products in that catalogue, and it's 156 pages. So we were just speaking to the people from HBA during the week, and they asked us would we give that a wee mention. So if you're looking to get that catalogue, just drop an email to hba.ie and they'll send you out one. Yeah, MotorZen is the name of our company, where two guys, Richie Devine. Richie does most of the camera work, and there's me, Paul Callan. I do most of the talking, and we're hoping to bring you all the news and topical things that are going on every day. We're hoping to go out into workshops and talk to guys running workshops, talk to motor factors, talk to people selling cars, talk to body shops in the industry all over Ireland. We're hoping to possibly then interview people and learn about them and learn about their businesses, learn about products that they use, learn about tools that they use, learn about diagnostic pieces of equipment that are good, bad or indifferent. So really all we're doing is trying to create this community of people from our industry, from our trade, from the aftermarket, and just get communication going among us all via these platforms that we're using.